Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Hello and welcome to Strength for Tomorrow Radio with me, Stuart Thompson. I'm so glad you could join me again. If you have listened before, welcome back. If this is your first time, hopefully it is not an off-putting experience and hopefully you learned something from it. I'm so glad you could join me. I'm so glad that you're choosing to spend your time. Of all the millions of podcasts out there, at this moment in time you're spending your time listening to me, and you're going to listen to Bobby Lyttle a little bit later on. So it's Friday again, hard to believe. Week has flown in. Seems like the summer is going in a little bit too fast for my liking. Bit of a sticky week, not much sun. What am I talking about? This isn't a weather forecast, this isn't a weather review. I'm not Michael Fish or Barra Best. Let's get down to business. Last week we chatted about personal responsibility. We thought about some practical tips that we can use to implement that and that we can get going with. This week I've got a special guest, so you're probably sick of hearing my voice every week, so at least once a month I want to get you an interview and give you a guest to listen to, someone who is insightful and interesting, engaging and inspiring. This week we've got Bobby Lyttle. So Bobby is an old friend of mine. I've known him for pretty much 10 years now. We go back to a time we were on a short-term mission trip to South Africa, and that was the first time I met Bobby. We spent a couple of weeks together, and it was a great experience, and we've kept in touch since then. We've kept in touch even more, I would say, in the last sort of 5 or 6 years. Basically since we both got into CrossFit. We stumbled upon CrossFit. Bobby will tell you more about that in the interview. And Bobby was always that little bit better at CrossFit than me. He was just that little bit stronger, that little bit fitter, that little bit faster. His gymnastics movements were better. But he, it kept my ego in check, but it also encouraged me and really pushed me and inspired me to push a little bit harder and to do a little bit more, work a little bit harder. And Bobby actually taught me how to get my very first muscle up. So that was a memorable experience, and I've done a few since then. So we'll chat a little bit more about that. But yeah, hopefully enjoy this week's interview. Turn your sound up and get a cup of tea on. Not if you're driving, of course, and listen to this. Keep your eyes on the road, hands on the wheel at all times.
Let's go, champ!
Hello and welcome to Strength for Tomorrow Radio. If you're listening to this on the podcast, my name is Stuart Thompson. Today I have with me Bobby Lyttle. I'm in his amazing gym in Dungannon, and it's been a pleasure looking around. It's just such a beautiful building to behold. If you are from the area, or if you're not from the area, you have to come and see it. Even if you don't work out, just come and see it. See his handiwork. It's beautiful. So Bobby has opened this gym in the last 2 months.
2 months now.
2 months, end of April, was it?
Whatever, the very date we could open in lockdown was the date that we opened. So
yes.
Whatever date that was, that's the date we opened. That was our first day of training.
Love that. I think it was like 30th of April.
I think
so.
so.
I reopened. So Bobby, you're 33? 34, sorry.
I'm 34, yes, I'm 34.
35 soon?
35 this year.
Yeah.
Not so soon, but this year.
Helen, have we got his present ready? Helen's probably not watching.
Yes, she's still not watching. You don't want to see this.
I've jumped ahead. You're married to Helen.
I am married.
You have one son and another child on the way.
Yes, we do. The child is due very, very soon.
Very excited.
I am nervous,
Nervous?
but totally excited. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's not as bad for the second time around.
No, you sort of know what to expect, but who's harder than
It's a
one.
baby.
It's a baby, yeah.
So you're living in New Mills at the moment?
So yeah, we're not too far away from here, just a couple of miles. We moved there maybe 10 years ago, both Fermanagh born and bred, so moved down here for work.
I was going to say, so you're from Fermanagh. You're quite far away in Fermanagh, are you? Where's Helen from in Fermanagh?
Helen's from Kesh. I'm actually from a wee place called Lisblaw, but we met in school in an activities thing just outside school, and sort of got to know each other that way, and then it took us so long to get together, but that's another story for another day.
That's part 2 of the podcast, the interview. Going to start off just some silly questions to get us going.
Go.
So, quick fire, just short answer. Bacon or eggs?
Eggs.
Really?
Oh, totally, 100%. Eggs every day.
Yeah, I'm not got a question. It's not for me to judge. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Weights or cardio?
Weights.
Books or movies?
Books.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Eat in or eat out?
Eat in.
Calling or texting?
Calling.
Toilet paper over or toilet paper under?
As long as there's toilet paper, I don't mind.
Okay. Use this guy. Lose sleep or skip a meal?
Lose sleep.
Yeah.
Right now, that's totally the only option I have.
That's just because we eat food and you're full.
Oh yeah.
Have you any controversial opinions?
Totally, but you're not gonna probably hear any right now.
Oh.
You might get to some later on. Oh yeah, totally.
Great. We'll have to probably put that in a censored version on Telegram or something that
Yeah.
we're talking about these days. Yeah, so first of all, we'll get stuck into the serious stuff. That's the fun of it. We're laughing. Can you tell me, what do you think about like nutrition and exercise? What was your experience growing up? I shared a little bit in the first episode of the podcast about mine. I'm interested to hear kind of what you experienced.
So growing up, I was always into some sort of sport. In school, I always loved athletics and football, and even when I moved schools, I started participating in rugby. So my fitness was always pretty decent, so I always had a good base level anyway. I competed in athletics when I was in school, did okay, have a couple of wee trophies and everything from those days. I have the Enniskillen record for the shot put. I think it's under 12s or 13s. I don't think it's beaten to this day. I hope not. We'll pretend that if it is beaten, it totally isn't, so it's still mine.
If you've beaten that, or if your child has beaten that and you're listening to this, let me know about it. So put him in his place.
Yeah, but then totally the end that suffered for me, which is probably the most important end, was the nutrition. So I had really no idea during school. I would have had packed lunch every day, sandwiches, jam, ham sandwiches, packet of crisps, wee biscuits, always just following that routine. And I was always sort of skinny growing up, and I was wondering why these other people were maybe putting on a bit more muscle, a bit fitter, a bit stronger. It was all to do with nutrition, so we'll definitely touch on that point because that's so important. Exercise, you only exercise for a couple hours a week. It's those hours that you're not in the gym. That's totally important.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of people go to the gym thinking that the magic's going to happen. And
the magic there is
you don't need to worry about what you do at the other 165 hours in a week if you go to the gym 3 times a week. But it's nutrition's where it's at, isn't it?
That's it.
What about? Can you tell me about how training over the years has helped you overcome tough times? Have you anything?
Yeah, I definitely have one specific area. So I always say to my clients and just anyone I sort of meet, the fitter you are, the easier life gets, and the stronger you are, the easier it is to cope with those challenges that life will definitely throw at you. It's not a maybe, it will happen. So back in my younger days, I actually got a disease called Weil's disease, leptospirosis, which is the ingestion of rat's urine. I was playing rugby at the time, so I was quite big and quite strong. And that disease completely knocked me for six. It actually nearly killed me. The statistic is 50% of the people that get it actually die from it. So I was in the good 50%. But the reason I survived it, the doctor said, is because I had so much weight to lose and I was so strong that my body was able to fight it. So I went into the hospital at 16.5 stone. I came out like 2 weeks later at something less than 12 and had to start rebuilding all my muscle and my weight all over again. But for about 6 months, I was completely not the level I was. So definitely in terms of strength and that sort of level, if I didn't have what I had, I wouldn't be here today. So I can contribute all that to my strength and training that I did whenever I was growing up.
Yeah, I think even sometimes mentally, a lot of times we think of the gym training is physical, the benefits of it, getting bigger, getting stronger, as you said, or if you're a lady, just getting stronger, not bigger necessarily.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. But sometimes the psychological element of it as well, like doing something tough, putting yourself through a tough workout, and how that can prepare you in everyday life. When you get challenges at work or you get challenges in family or whatever happens, sometimes I think that the benefit of disciplining yourself to do that hardcore training.
I totally 100% agree. So you're putting yourself in that disciplined state, being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So whenever you hit those situations outside the gym, you know that you're prepared, you have that preparedness ready to attack whatever's being thrown at you, so you have that mental state along with a physical state.
Yeah. What have you learned, what lessons have you learned over the last 10 years or however long you've been training for, from your training yourself or from coaching other people? What kind of lessons have you
it's always daunting to sort of start, and same with anything. You start something new, it's always terrifying. So if anybody walks in the door and sees someone lifting heavy, they say to themselves the first thing, oh, I'd never get to that level, I'd never lift that. But it's all a process, and that's sort of where the name came from. It's like you start small, you start with that one step, you take that first step, the initial step, and then you just build on it, and over time it grows and grows and grows. And then why weights and everything was so important, it helped build your confidence. So not just your confidence in the gym, but outside the gym. So it's like even like applying for the job that you think you have no chance of getting. You have the confidence, it comes out whenever you're speaking, whenever you're being interviewed. That same thing can cross over to so many aspects of your life. So that's why I say it's so important to do a level of fitness, no matter what it is, some sort of fitness, and that helps through all aspects of life.
No, absolutely, couldn't agree more. And you kind of transitioned into you did shot put. You think you said you did. How did you transition to where you are today? Then, and how you kind of see fitness or the process?
No, it was as I get older, my goals sort of changed, and they'll change again and again as I get older. So I always wanted to be strong and fit. So whenever I was playing rugby, I was strong and I wanted to be as big and as heavy and as powerful, but then I didn't have the fitness behind me, so I didn't have the long runs in me. So I was very gassed very quickly. I was a big target to hit, but I'd hit you once and it might be 5 minutes before you'd see me again. So I wanted to develop some sort of fitness I was strong and I had the body composition that I wanted as well, or that I was working towards. And then me and Helen were on our honeymoon, and I turned on the TV, and the CrossFit Games were on. And I was seeing these athletes that looked how I wanted to look, lift weights, but then they also had to run, and they were doing sprints, and it was no problem. And then they're going back to your weights, and I was like, what is this? So we were on a honeymoon on our cruise, so I went out and went to the gym, did a couple of weights, and then got on the running machine and did like 1 or 2 runs, and I was zonkered. I was done, and I was like, right. As soon as I get home, we're going to find one of these gyms, and whenever I get home, I joined a CrossFit gym, and it just sort of, my love for it grew from then. So over the years, I did get fitter and I got stronger, but I was still able to move, and my body composition changed because I was heavy when I was younger, but I had a lot of fat on me. I have less fat now, but I'm around the same strength, but I can move, so I'm prepared for sort of any challenge that sort of comes. Until they throw something in that I'm no good at, then I just have to keep working on it to get better at it. So work on your weaknesses is a massive thing.
And again, it builds confidence, doesn't it? And you start seeing little progressions and getting better at it. I think you started CrossFit maybe 6 months before I started. I stumbled upon it, and it was some idea. I came up with it on his YouTube video. These guys are deadlifting crazy amounts and then handstand walking or something. I was like, oh, that's cool.
It's cool.
Try it. If they could do it, why could I not do it? They've got a body, I've got a body. Try that. So. But it used to annoy me, but it used to inspire me, I should say. Whenever you would always be mature workout sometimes, you tell me what you did and I tell you what I did, and you were always just that wee bit better. You're especially gymnastics movements, I think you always
maybe fudged a couple of numbers there, but anyway, we'll not.
Well, it pushed me at new level. You taught me my first muscle up, because I could do pull-ups, lots of pull-ups, I could do dips, and I could not put 2 of them together to do a muscle up.
But it's all about that transition. It's linking it together.
Yeah, and you taught me my first muscle ups, and I've done a few since then. I'm glad to hear.
Good. Keep it going.
Yeah. What about nutrition? I see you posting loads of stuff on Instagram, social media, like what you're eating, and then I suddenly put down the ice cream and think, Bobby's doing well there. But how do you stay so disciplined?
See, now it's actually a lot easier than what it used to be, because a lot of companies are definitely in the movement of higher protein, lower calories. So I love my ice cream. You just touched on it there, but now there's ice creams that are lower calories that you can still get that good taste.
That means you can eat 2 tubs.
That's exactly the wrong attitude. No, but it is easier, but it all sort of starts with your preparation. So you need to sort of know your macros, what nutrition you need to be eating for your body composition or for your sport. And then it starts with even as early as your shopping. So you need to shop for your week. You need to prepare your meals in advance and know what you're hitting. So that's what I would say to anybody. If you're just winging it every day, you don't know what your calorie intake is, you could be way too high, you could be way too low. That will have effects on your body composition, also on your performance. If it is for a sport, the better prepared you are, the better prepared you're going to be for your sport. So I prepare I prepare my meals in advance, so I would cook on Sunday for maybe a couple of days and then cook again middle of the week, and then I would either freeze or put them in the refrigerator. So then I have my food sorted for the week, but that also gives me the option to have loads of time in the evening. So if I get home in the evenings, I have time to spend with my family, so I'm not going home to cook meals. But this is one of the benefits as well. So you have your food tracked, but you also have that extra time. You also save money because you understand what you need to buy for the week, so it's all planned in advance.
It's long listed.
It's totally, yeah. So there's so many benefits to that. And then I always sort of sit in a calorie deficit until the weekend, and then I banked a couple of calories. So then if I want to indulge a little bit in the weekend, I'll indulge. Yeah. As we talked about earlier, not too many pizzas. Yeah. I don't think the pizzas are worth it, but you know, everybody's different.
I live to regret pizza. Some people are just pizza people. I love them, but I always live to regret it.
Yeah.
And feel terrible afterwards.
You do. It just has that feeling on you. I'm not against pizzas, but for me, it's just not for me. I'd rather have a McDonald's.
Just in case Domino's. So there are other pizza companies available. You don't have to go McDonald's. There's Burger King. Not promoting these, by the way.
No, totally the wrong.
There's not getting paid to promote. No, I'm joking. But yeah, like I think tracking is a big thing. It's missing.
Tracking is a hard thing, and it's
boring.
It is boring,
but it's so effective.
But if you do it for a couple of weeks, you're nearly at a stage where you can sort of nearly eyeball it, so you're there or thereabouts. Obviously, a tracker is going to be as accurate as you are as well, and give or take 10% either way. So you're as accurate as you're going to be. But then it's what you do outside the gym as well. It's your NEAT, it's your daily movement, your daily activities. All of that comes into play as well, because your physical activity sort of only counts for maybe like 10% of the day or the week, whatever. So it's everything else outside that, including your hydration, your water intake, and your sleep is a massive one. Yeah. I notice lately now I'm not getting as much sleep. I'm not as strong. I'm underperforming.
You're about to get less sleep.
I'm about to get even less sleep. But even in terms of my performance in the gym, I feel it dipping because I'm not getting that sleep. And then whenever you're tired, you also make bad decisions.
You eat more. You find energy.
Totally. I find myself just going to the cupboard. But there's another wee trick there. If you don't buy it, you can't eat it.
Unless you're really dedicated and you go to the shop. Or if you run to the shop.
Yes, that's what. If you run to the shop, put it in a habit to run to the shop.
I think the planning is a really good point as well. Because I always find it funny, like sometimes you're like, what am I going to eat tonight? And it's like, why is it a surprise that we eat food every evening? Why is it we get to the evening, what am I going to eat? Oh, I'm hungry now. I didn't see that coming. Yeah. Like, funnily enough, most of us eat 3 meals a day. So why is it a shocker in the evening when you're like, oh, I have to eat food now? What are we going to make? But if you can have plan it, as you should do, because we're humans and we need food. So if you plan it, then you save time, you save money, spend time with your family and everything as well, and you're going to eat properly, isn't that right? So I want to say food is fuel. So fuel fuels your body. So people take actually more care of their cars, their vehicles, than they do their bodies. You can always buy a new car, you cannot buy a new body. Yeah. So your body has to do you for life. So the better the fuel that you put in it, the longer it should potentially last. You don't need AdBlue either.
You don't need AdBlue, not yet. Until they come up with this pill, this magic pill. Follow this.
The blue pill. So how did you come to open this beautiful gym? Was it a long process? Was it a few years? You thought, I want to do this, and you had it in the back of your head, or did you just wake up?
I had always been looking for the last couple of years. I always wanted to do it, but then I had what I didn't know existed was imposter syndrome. So I didn't feel that I was good enough to open a gym, or that people would listen to me, or that there was people out there, like, you compare yourself to other people. Obviously they know what they're doing there exactly. But then I read a book, I can't remember who it's called. It's called Start Now to Get Perfect Later, and that just a massive eye opener for me. So we just sort of went with it, and then we're going to build it as it goes and as it's needed to. But I love helping people. I love coaching people. Whenever people hit a performance target or something that they've been aiming for, and you've been able to help them with the process, that's why it's totally worth it.
It's rewarding, isn't it?
I always think of it like the Matrix, and so what we do, we're like Morpheus. We can show you to the door, but you have to walk through it. So that's what the clients need to do. We can bring you so far, give you all the points that you need to hit, help you with your nutrition, help you with your training. But it's the client themselves that has to push themselves to get to where they want to go. And if they want something bad enough, they will go out of their way to do it.
Yeah. I think the process of adaptation is sometimes people find it hard to get their head around. So if you did a workout on Monday and you would do a workout again on Wednesday, you're capable of more on the Wednesday than you were on the Monday, just a little bit extra, and the same goes throughout the week. And I think people, once they kind of get their head around, I could actually push a wee bit harder this. I can lift a wee bit more today. Once it kind of clicks, then they aren't afraid of putting on a couple of kilos extra or
that is your progressive overload that you're talking about. It's like you start them small and they're like, oh, actually, I am capable of doing that. And then you just push them a wee bit harder. And they find within themselves something that they've never known they've had.
Yeah, it's just, as you said, capabilities deep within their body. They're programmed to adapt, recover, and then go again and stress themselves a little bit extra. How do you come up with the name Work in Progress?
So, I use that on engineer as my career as an engineer. We use that all the time for our projects. So they're always a work in progress until they're finished, and then you move the files, they're finished, and then the customer gets what they've asked for based on their specifications. Yeah. But for humans, I think we should always be a work in progress, so we can always adapt and evolve and get better. Yep. So I thought that approach would definitely work, and just in the name and in the branding and everything, it's short, it's to the point, and people know what we're all about. So you always want to improve. You want to get that 1% better every day. So even if you don't, you have that baseline. Okay, I have hit that before. Maybe I'm having a bad day, having a bad week. That's okay. I can get back up there again and just keep working on it. It's an adaptive process. Yeah. Success isn't linear. It has ups and downs.
Yeah. It's that bit in the middle. Sometimes people see the start and the end. But like you said, there's a work in progress. Yeah. And in one sense, there's never an end. We can always improve on something somewhere, whether it's your cardio, whether it's your strength, whether it's your mobility. And
even with the age, like your numbers do start coming down, but you can get more specific, you can get more efficient. So maybe you're not as strong, but you're more efficient at some sort of lift. It's all about preventative measures as well. So as you talked about in one of your podcasts for osteoporosis, that's one of the things. Like weightlifting is great for helping that, so keep it going.
Yeah, and if you start it earlier, it stands by you better. Rather than waiting until something happens, want you to do something now. You're better starting in your 20s, your 30s, or younger.
Preventative medicine.
Yeah, exactly. Prevention is better than cure, as they say. Less side effects.
Generally cheaper too.
Yeah, a lot cheaper. What is it you really enjoy? Like, what gets you up? What's the earliest class you have? Is it 6 a.m.?
It's 6 a.m.
What gets you up at like 5:30 or 5 o'clock?
I say my alarm, but I'll be lying. I actually do get up before my alarm. I am buzzing to get going.
What does he love about training people? That's what I was wanting to get to.
It's just helping them with that process. So I have, like to say, a very strong mindset. So I have good willpower. Some people mightn't have that. But whenever they get in and get going in the mornings and you're just shouting at them, you watch them perform, you know that they can push themselves a wee bit harder. They hit you at the time, you're like, I know you can maybe lift a wee bit more, or you could go a wee bit faster. They're not your best friend, but at the end of it, they're like, yeah, I actually did achieve that. It's like, yeah, I know, I believe in you. You just have to give them the confidence to believe in themselves. They're just getting them through that process to where they can, and generally they surpass where they think they could be.
A lot of people are like that, and they don't realise what their body's capable of. They don't, and that's a test to some extent. They never even find out. I mean, if you get to 80 years old and never find out what they were capable of.
That's exactly it.
I think others are superior, but we've all got bodies. It's the exact same process. We all adapt and react in a similar way. We're not so different in a lot of ways.
That's what David Goggins points to. A brilliant book, Can't Hurt Me. David Goggins. He talks about the 40% rule. Whenever you think you're done, you're generally only about 40% of what you're actually capable of.
That's crazy.
So even in the middle of workouts, and I think I'm done, if you waited maybe a minute, you could get up and probably do the same thing again. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. You just give yourself a wee bit of time. It's that self-talk. You end up talking yourself out of what you're capable of doing, but you need to reframe that and be like, okay, I actually can do that. I've done that. Maybe if I haven't done that, let's try it and see where we'll go.
Yeah. It's like, a good example is like a heavy deadlift, and you can be talking yourself out of it and talking, it's a really heavy weight, I don't know if we can do that. But it's the exact same process, whether it's 40 kilos you were doing before with the same technique, or it's the same, it's the exact same technique. So 140 kilos, 240 kilos, the exact same technique, the exact same process, and the same steps. And it's telling yourself those steps over again as you approach the bar and as you go through it, rather than going, it's a heavy weight, it's a heavy weight. But the fear sometimes just.
Sometimes, as you said, you touched on this earlier, sometimes you can kind of trick your clients.
Yeah.
I've done this before. I've told them there's a weight on the bar, and I've put a wee bit more on it, and they've lifted it. It's because in their mind, their mentality is, oh, I've lifted that weight before. Oh, I don't want to go heavier, I'm afraid of the heaviness.
Yeah.
But then whenever they put it down, and you're like, okay, count the numbers not there, and they're like, here, that's more than you said. It's like, I know it is, and you did it, because they told themselves internally.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot do anything that you haven't told in your mind that you can do.
Exactly.
So you need to have that belief.
Yeah. If there's any clients listening, you might just turn it on this. Turn it on mute for a second, because if there's any coaches listening, this is a really good tip. You put on a fraction plates.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the big plates, and I think it's less weight.
Fractions count.
We talked about this. You can turn it back on again if your clients, coaches. You can keep listening as well if you want. But it works, doesn't it?
It does.
It's a really good idea. And I suppose this is quite in keeping with what we've been talking about. But what do you tell yourself whenever you are, in the middle of a tough workout, whether it's like a 10-minute WOD or 8-minute WOD, like an AMRAP, or if it is just a heavy lift or something? What is it you tell yourself upstairs? Is it the technique of it? I suppose it depends what you're doing exactly.
Yeah.
But is it? Do you just emphasise all the technical points of how to lift, or is it?
I have
to tell yourself something else.
I have a lot of wee markers that I use for myself. So I have Mel Robbins' book, the 5-second rule. So doing like heavy stuff, I sort of step away from the bar and I'm like, okay, 5 seconds, I'll talk myself back into it again. So if you leave the process longer than 5 seconds, you'll talk yourself out and just sort of quit. And then even the point of like Finding Nemo, it's always like, just keep swimming, just keep swimming.
Yeah.
Long workouts, endurance ones, I'll just be like, just keep going, just keep going.
Yeah.
You're not going to die. Just keep going.
Keep going.
It's just to keep it moving.
Yeah.
But you'll actually surprise yourself what you're capable of doing in those big workouts. Like
Every time.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah, I love that. Like we can find Nemo there and weightlifting. It's great for parents and kids, and it's just a family show. It's
Just
great.
get everyone doing.
No, it's absolutely true. Just that little bit, just moving, keep keep. The 5-second rule, I was actually referred to that, not strictly in the same sense, but I tell clients, see if they're struggling with, say, bench press or some sort of press or squat or whatever it is, more so press, I guess it works. But if you fight with it for 5 seconds, that rep, a tough rep, you'll generally beat it.
Yeah.
If you just keep focused
Just
attention.
don't give up.
Just don't give up after 2 or 1. Fight with it for 5 seconds, and you'll probably win that rep. You'll win that round, and it's surprising how successful that's been.
There's an amazing type of training, and I can't remember the name of it. So whenever you're doing like a really heavy lift, if you step away and take 5 massive deep breaths and go again, you'll generally hit the exact same number. So say if you did a max number of push-ups, and then you think, I'm done, and then you try another set, you might get like half of them. But if you take in that volume of air that you need and reset and go again, you'll surprise yourself on what numbers you can hit.
Yeah.
It's just that mentality. It's just like, I don't want to say that meditation, but that form of preparing your body, preparing yourself, preparing your mind, and go again. Yeah. That's brilliant. There's one for you to try.
Yeah, let's try that one. Yeah. Hopefully the door's closed and I don't walk out after 5 seconds. So what is your message you're in Dungannon here, just outside Dungannon. If there's someone listening who's in that surrounding area, what is the message of working performance fitness? What do you want to tell them? Why should they? It's just that's it. Why should they come through the door? Why do they need to come check this place out to meet you guys, you and other coaches, and to do start something?
Like we're not as scary as people think.
Not even with that beard.
Not with this beard. This beard will come off and come off. I'll not give a date. It'll come off soon.
Keep for Christmas.
I'll have a job at Christmas.
Yeah, keep for Christmas.
But it's not as intimidating when you start. But that's what I'd say to everybody. If you're on the fence, just give it a go. Try it out. It might be for you. It might not be for you. But you might love it, and it might help you with more avenues of life or aspects of life than you actually thought. It could help. It helped me with mental health and depression. It could help other people as well in different situations. This is where you can go to get rid of aggression and anger and just have an hour to yourself. Even in the group environment, there's a person beside you in the box. They have their own troubles that they're dealing with, so they're not thinking about you. A lot of people get put off with group classes, but I think it's one of the best forms of training because you have other people to push yourselves against. Even if you specify yourself as maybe a weaker or unfit person, you could look at somebody else and be inspired. It's like, okay, they can do it, I'm human, why can't I? So just think about that. if you're ever intimidated or put off, it's like, if they can achieve it, so can you.
Yeah.
And it's just about starting and getting going.
Yeah. Just
Start where you are. You can only get better.
Exactly. Just get the foot through the door and go check it out. But yeah, I think that's great advice. And she said, like, everybody's got their own wee battle they're dealing with, and you know, as a collection of people, you know, like I know I've experienced it with my group classes. Some people have become the best of friends, even over lockdown and stuff. They've kept in touch, and you know, even the classes in person weren't on. They were, you know, phone call, go up the mountain together, do something together. So it's great even to see that happening around a big group class.
Yeah, that's what I love about the groups. You do develop friendships that do last.
Yeah, and you've got that thing in common, you know, that connection is always going to be there. And what is your vision going forward with work in progress health? Is it, you know, are you going to go global? Are you going to
we go from world
town by town? No, are you going to just, like, basically, obviously you've nearly filled out this place already, which is fast, it's so cool. But you're still waiting for bits of equipment to arrive, so once you get exposed more of that, you're going to be able to.
Yeah, no, we're talking about this all the time. I've always loved to do this. I've never sort of thought on a global scale, but I just want to build something that people love and that helps them where they are, their journey in life, just to make them better, develop that whole process. And if it grows till we need to have a new location, then so be it. If it stays here and we develop that community, then so be that. We're just going to work it out as we go along.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, brilliant.
I have visions of obviously going a bit further and doing a bit more, but we'll just have to see how it goes.
Yeah.
And just love every part of the process.
Yeah.
Live in the now. This is the now. This is what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We're helping as many people as we can.
That's it. I think if you're serving your local community as well as you can, you know, you can only help but grow, I guess.
Yeah.
You can only help but get bigger to some extent, and it depends on how big you want to take that. But no, certainly it's great to see it filled up so fast after a couple of months. Amazing.
Yeah.
What is the one takeaway you want people who are listening to this? There's going to be all sorts of people listening to this. What's the one takeaway you want them to?
I think I just touched on that in the last point. It's start where you are. Don't worry about anybody else. It's your journey, it's your walk of life. So what everyone does shouldn't have the bearing on you. So if Stuart goes and eats loads of rubbish, that doesn't affect me, it affects him. So it's the same thing about training. You work where you are and you build and develop from there.
Yeah.
So you can only get better.
Yeah, I saw a funny meme this week that said, like, I can't give you the start of it, my friend people, but basically you can't take anyone else's gains.
Exactly.
It's kind of funny, like if you do weightlifting, you can't.
I can take your fries, but can't
Yeah, you can take your food, yeah. You share nutrition, but you can't share gains. So, also, I'm trying to start a tradition that guests bring me a joke that will surpass my jokes, which are terrible. Have you got a joke?
I got a joke. It's I say it's really good, but it's one of those. It's definitely a dad joke. Like,
That's okay, we're dads.
We're both dads. So a guy walks into a brand new gym there. He talks to a receptionist, and he says, "Right, I need to get a woman. What machine do I need to be working on to get women attracted to me?" And she turns around to him and says, "The ATM machine."
That's good. I like that.
It's good.
Yeah, no, I can't use it in the next podcast. I might save it for a year and then do it something. Regurgitate it again.
They say the best jokes have a bit of truth behind them, so
yeah.
From now on you will.
Yeah, if you're offended, it's true. If you want to know more about Bobby or his gym in Dungannon, you can, and you'd like to get started investing in your own health, that's just what we've been chatting about. You can find him. Email is whiphealthandfitness247@gmail.com.
That's the one.
Facebook Whip Health and Fitness, and Instagram whip_health_and_fitness. Got one question. Is there any common misconceptions or fitness myths that you'd like to knock in the head right now?
Just threw that out of the water.
Yeah.
I'm sure that I can't think off the cuff.
I want to talk about this one actually. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but weights make women bulky.
Oh, totally.
That's my pet peeve, that one.
That's what I say to all my clients. Females come in here and the first thing they want to do, well, okay, not just females. They come in and say, "I want to lose 10 pounds." And it's like, okay, there's a really easy way to do that. Give me your arm and I'll cut it off. 10 pound loss straight away. But there's another good marker to use as well. It's like, you don't look back at a photo and be like, oh, look how good I weighed in that photo. You're like, okay, I look good because my clothes maybe fitted me. I was working out and I had the body composition that I was happy with. It's that if you add a bit of resistance into your training, it helps to build lean muscle in your body, which actually makes you look, that gives you that toned look. It's really hard for women to put on muscle the same as men, and that's the whole estrogen versus testosterone debate there.
Unless they're juicing.
Unless they're taking some sort of PDEs, like
Don't
performance
do
enhancing
drugs.
drugs. No, drugs are bad. Drugs are bad. So it is, resistance training should be done by everybody at every age. It helps with so many avenues and aspects of life.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I think you summed up that well. Thank you very much, Bobby. It's been a pleasure being here. I want to come back and do a workout. Hopefully you'll go easy on me.
Let's go now.
Full up that burrito. No, thank you very much. I will be back soon though to do a workout and hopefully catch up with you in a future interview. See how you're getting on.
When my podcast is up and going.
Yeah, a rival one. Oh.
What?
Thank you.
Spoiler alert.
That was legitness. Yeah, it was, huh?
And now it's time for news of the week. So this week's story, it is concerning footwear. There was a study done by the University of Liverpool and they found that wearing minimalist footwear increases foot strength by about 60%. So quite a significant amount. If you're from the Warrenpoint area listening to this, I know we've got listeners from all over the show, but if you're from the Warrenpoint area, you've maybe seen a guy running about down the street on a run with no shoes on, so not minimalist footwear, literally his bare skin hitting the tarmac, hitting the footpath, and you maybe thought, that guy's lost his shoes. That's what I thought whenever I first seen him, but tell you what, he knows what he's about. That guy knows what he's doing. I don't know his name. There's probably somebody listening to this that knows him. If you know him, give him a shout out. Tell him to he's been referenced here. But yeah, fair play to him. I've often admired people who do wear minimalist or go barefoot as often as they could, because basically they've got healthier feet. So part of the reason is that most of our shoes nowadays are designed to look stylish and look sleek and look nice and compact and small and make our feet look more pretty and more attractive. Though they're feet at the end of the day, so there's only so much you can do, right? But the problem is that the toe compartment tends to be very, very small and tight. That's the widest part of our foot if you have a normal foot, unless you've got it run over by a car. But if you have your toes squished up, what's going to happen long term is that you're going to have no space in between them. You're going to lose mobility and strength in your toes, and that leads to problems on up the chain. It involves problems with balance. So, interestingly enough, researchers say that stronger feet can help reduce the risk of falls in the later stages of life. I would argue that it helps reduce the risk of falls right now, and not just falls, injuries. So I see it all the time. A lot of clients, because they're wearing big thick soles in their shoes, whether they're running shoes or whether they wear high heels, they get tight ankles, tight calves, tight Achilles. So there's all sorts of restrictions that come from this because of the constant pressure on those areas from the higher the elevation that they're involved with their shoes. So in this study, 70% of the participants who wore minimalist shoes for 70% of their time when shod for a minimum of 6 days a week saw significant foot strength gains. So very, very interesting. Wearing minimalist shoes for 6 months will increase your foot strength by 60% and could make you more steady in your feet, according to the University of Liverpool. So they used actually the Vivo Barefoot Stealth 2. All their products are available, I should say. And it's a minimalist footwear, so basically it's like those weird looking ones. I'm going to actually go into here to give you a correct description. But they're very, very interesting. They basically make you feel more in contact with the ground. They're very, very small, thin sole on them. And I often play about with my footwear. I rarely wear the same pair of trainers for more than 2 days in a row. I try to change it up and keep them active, keep them working hard. Sometimes I'll wear more of a running shoe. Sometimes I wear more of like a Vans, like a flat shoe. Sometimes I'll wear like a kind of hybrid shoe, like a CrossFit hybrid shoe, like a Reebok Nano or a Nike Metcon. But the reason for that is I find it better for my feet. So there's quite a lot of plantar fasciitis running around these days. I've had a lot of clients who've experienced it. I've had family members who've experienced it, and it is a really painful condition. Now, I haven't had it full scale, but I have experienced the start of it before, so I've been really careful to really work my feet hard and to build strength in them. And whenever I feel something not right with them, I'll do a bit more work with them. But it's like everything else, whenever it feels good, we don't want to do it again. And working out your feet is probably the last thing in our mind. Am I right? So the experts here recommend that it's best if you are going to ditch your thick running shoes, like I know there's all sorts of makes now. You've got your Asics, you've got your Salomons, you've got, you know better than I will what type of shoes there are, but I try to avoid big, thick, foamy soles, basically because they're cumbersome, but also you're kind of masking the problem. If you've got crappy running technique, if you're running more miles than your body can cope with, if you don't have the strength to maintain good form for 5 miles or 6 miles or whatever it is you're trying to run, you're bashing up your joints. I don't care what sort of running shoes you buy, I don't care how much money you spend on them, you're doing damage on up the chain, your knees, your hips, probably your back and your ankles. There's problems, and you're kind of masking it whenever you just foam up your feet. So Dr. Pete Francis, who was involved in his Carlo Institute of Technology, he says if you're considering ditching your running shoes and giving barefoot run to try, best advice is to walk before you run, which is sensible advice. Try minimalist shoes and go for a walk. Try and really feel your feet working. And then also say here, start your barefoot running journey on a grassy park where there is some give in the ground. Begin with 10 to 15 minutes of light jogging. I would say watch out for dog do as well. Watch out for dog dirt. That's the last thing you want if you're going barefoot. It's the last thing you want if you're wearing trainers as well. But interesting story. Maybe you're not as interested as I am, but hopefully that is going to benefit somebody and challenge you to really think about your feet, think about your footwear, and ask the questions. Whenever you go in to get shod, like a horse, whenever you go in to get your shoes, pick them, measure your feet or whatever, really ask questions about them. Ask questions, why is it this big thick sole? Why do I need this? Why are my toes squished? Get shoes that fit you. Some people's feet are wider than others, and that's really important to take into account when you're choosing shoes, especially ones you're going to be wearing for long periods of time or doing something active. So that's us for News of the Week. Now it's time for some frequently asked questions. And this week I thought I would do something a little bit different. So I had a bit of a Google search and I looked up frequently asked questions. And lo and behold, there was a magazine called womenshealthmag.com. Hopefully nobody's read this, because it's pretty awful. And if you're listening to this and you work for them, maybe you should resign, or at least look into what you're writing about. One of the frequently asked questions, I'd feel bad if it wasn't true, but one of the frequently asked questions here, I'm going to read out the question and the answer, and then I'm going to tell you why their answer is terrible and what the truth is. So, what are the best exercises to sculpt and tone arms, and how many pounds should you use? So it's American, they're using pounds. Answer, great question. The best way to tone long, lean arms is to use a mixture of 3 to 5 pound weights and resistance bands. By doing low weight and high repetitions, this ensures that you don't overbuild and bulk the muscles. Resistance bands are light and easy to travel with and can be used anywhere. For lighter resistance, choose red, and higher resistance, use blue. So it depends what bands you buy, obviously, at that last bit. So where do I start? The best way to tone long, lean arms is to use a mixture of 3 to 5 pound weights and resistance bands. So first of all, the best way to tone long and lean arms. So there you go, long and lean arms. First of all, what is toning? What do they mean by toning? Because I don't think it means what they think it means. So resistance bands, yes, they can be useful, but using 3 to 5 pound weights is one of the best ways to waste your time, unless that is all you're capable of doing. The next bit, it just blows my mind. By doing low weight and high repetitions, this ensures that you don't overbuild and bulk the muscles. For a start, this is addressed to women. This magazine, hopefully, is Women's Health Mag, so women are primarily the ones who will be reading this. Women, when you do low weight and high repetitions, you build stamina and muscle endurance, okay? You do not build muscle. Number 2, building muscle for women, as Bobby said, as we were both referring to in the interview, it's very, very difficult to do for women. Number one reason is because they have a different balance of hormones to men. Men have more testosterone, women have an awful lot less. So there's that. There's also the fact that if you use lighter weights, you're not going to build muscle. Okay, so it is impossible. So you might have to ask yourself, what's the point? Because toning involves building muscle. That might be a bit of a shock to some of you, but it does involve building a little bit of muscle. The main way, though, is to actually strip fat away. The best way to strip fat away, and we dealt with this a couple of weeks ago, is a calorie deficit. So it's nutrition. You can do all the weights, you can do all the repetitions with light weights in the world. You could do them all day if you wanted to, and you're probably not going to burn enough energy to make yourself get into a calorie deficit if you're not paying attention to nutrition. So for the very start, so that's the first thing. To tone arms, sculpt and tone arms, you need to be in a calorie deficit to strip fat away if fat is your problem. Now they're saying that these are long, lean arms, in which case they're going to be toned anyway, okay, if they have a bit of muscle underneath. If they don't have muscle, then they need to be lifting heavier weights. It's as simple as that. And using resistance bands, I know they might look a little bit easier and less intimidating than barbells or dumbbells, but they do the same job, especially if you choose heavier ones. Although the barbell has time and time again been shown to be the most effective, the fastest, most effective, most efficient way to get stronger. So it's a bit of a strange one. It's a really, really strange answer as well. What are the best exercises to sculpt and tone arms, and how many pounds should you use? So the best way to do it is to lift weights, to lift heavy weights, and heavy will be relevant to you, okay? Oh dear. Like it's articles like this that really make personal trainers' jobs safe, in a sense, because we're just constantly having to correct this nonsense. And you can tell whoever's coming up with this has absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And people read this, people believe it, and people just keep going with it. So it's a frequently asked question. It's one that someone else has asked, and I've kind of stumbled upon it and used it. I'm going to give womenshealthmag.com full credit for this question because it was on their webpage. So full disclosure, full disclaimer, but I'm also happy enough to tear it apart because it's just so bad. The next FAQ, I'm going to use womenshealthmag.com again as a reference point. They've answered a question here, and it's probably not the worst advice in the world, but the focus is just completely wrong. So the question is, how can you reduce belly fat and flatten your stomach? So I think that's a question that's crossed most of our minds at some stage, and maybe more so if you're a lady. It isn't a ladies' magazine after all, so it's quite a prevalent thought. But they say it's 80% diet and 20% exercise. What you're taking in is just as important as the abs. However, they then go on to recommend doing planks, that being their favourite tummy flattening exercise. The problem with that advice is that we need to establish, if there's belly fat there, okay, and I mean like you can grab an inch or more than an inch, several inches, then nutrition is the be all and end all, to be honest with you. You need to start working on just figuring out how many calories you need and how many calories you're burning each day, and that will reduce that fat tissue that's stored there. That will reduce it down significantly. Many of us, we store our body fat tissue there. That's just the way it is. It's called being human. Men and women, that's where we store it. So often that's the last place it wants to leave as well. So it can be quite tricky. But you need to figure out what calories you need and try and stay a little bit under that. So I don't mean if you need 1,500 or 2,000, I don't mean you go under 1,000 calories. I dealt with this before in a few episodes ago. It's worth checking that one out. It's a little bit more in depth, but basically you need to be in a calorie deficit and for a significant amount of time. That is if you've got a significant amount of body fat there. Now, for someone who maybe just is completely detrained, maybe you're past the age of 25 or 30, and you've started to notice that you're just starting to get a little bit of a pouch, or it's just a little bit of a hang down there, and maybe you got away with it for all your teenage years and early 20s, and now you're starting to notice it. My advice to you would be to start with a plank. That's not bad advice. Start with a plank. So if you don't have lots of fat there, it's just hanging a little bit because there's not enough not enough muscle, not enough strength to hold things together. Start with a plank, side planks, and then start adding in some limb movements. So what I mean by that is doing a plank, do a plank well. If you can hold it for a minute, well, it gets boring for one thing, but the other thing is you need to start challenging yourself a little bit more, because you're able to do that now. So you need to start moving the goalposts and making it a little bit more difficult. So reaching ahead of you, making like a tripod position, so balancing on one elbow, keeping the feet on the floor and trying to reach ahead of you. The other thing to think about is staying high on your toes. Don't let your feet move about, or don't let your hips drop too high, too low. You want to make sure your hips are slightly higher than your shoulders, and keep that nice straight posture. Okay, and the other thing, once you've kind of done that, then you need to start doing some weights. So lifting weights in general, whether it's you're doing squats, deadlifts, overhead pressing, pull-ups are another surprising core exercise. And I know we like to think of the core as doing sit-ups, doing crunches, doing bicycle crunches, all the variations of crunches. We all know them they're all out there, and all the influencers have all these little funny videos on Instagram and TikTok and whatever of these, do this for 30 days and get a six-pack. To be honest with you, if you've got quite a high body fat percentage, 30 days is not going to be enough. If you are a female, it's going to be even more difficult, because remember, it's hard to put on muscle. So putting on muscle does not happen overnight. That's what I'm trying to say. The other thing I should say, if you have a significant amount of body fat tissue stored around the belly area, as well as a calorie deficit, start getting in steps. So start walking, start moving. Don't worry about crunches. Don't worry about planks so much. Just start getting the steps in, get that body fat percentage down, and then you can start worrying about strengthening it. If you want to start strengthening it early, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Fine, by me, go ahead. But if you just happen to, say you're quite a slim build, but you're starting to get a bit of a pouch down there, then you need to start strengthening things. So deadlifts will strengthen the core right the way around. Pull-ups are another one. The reason for that is you have to stop yourself swaying whenever you're trying to do pull-ups. So if you're training for pull-ups, you're training the abs as well, because you're maintaining a nice hollow body position. Now, there's loads of other ways to do it. Some people as well just genetically have a flatter stomach. Some people's just sits out a little bit more. Now, there is always something you can do. You can always improve upon it to some degree or other. But that would be my advice. I don't want to be too harsh on the womenshealthmag.com here, because, a plank's a fair shout. It's probably the obvious one, but start with planks and build it up. As I said, move a limb, move a leg, move an arm, and go from there. That is the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much to our special guest this week, Bobby Lyttle, head coach and owner of Work in Progress Health and Fitness based in Dungannon. Hopefully you've learnt something from Bobby. He's shared a lot. He's given us a lot of his experience and his wealth of knowledge in that half an hour interview. Hopefully you picked some stuff up. He's told us how he got into fitness and his journey, and how he's become so passionate about it, and how he stays disciplined with nutrition, and how you can as well. There's a lot, we packed a lot in there. Hopefully you put up with our bad jokes and our twisted sense of humour, but it was great to meet up with Bobby. As I said, you'll see this in the description probably, but this was the third take we had of this interview, which is kind of funny but also kind of sad, and it's a cruel indictment upon my production and interviewing skills. But first time, got 6 minutes into videoing it. It was more the video than anything that messed it up. The audio was generally fine, apart from the second time, but first one round we run out of memory on my recording device, my phone, for the first 6 minutes, and then had to stop, delete a load of stuff off my phone. Second time, right, good to go, banged it out, 27 minutes I think that it was, and we're delighted. We've got some good stuff. There's loads of really interesting answers and discussions that came up. And I got home that night, I was starting to try to strip the audio off it to put it on the podcast, and I could have cried. There was no audio, it was just silence with us miming for 27 and something minutes. So Bobby, in his grace and his kindness, agreed to do it again. I was going to come down to him anyway. It just brought it forward a little bit sooner, so I came down the next week and I saw his gym. It was incredible, lovely building. I think I stressed that during the interview, but it's a great building. He's really kitted out well. He's broke his back. He's done so much work to it. his wife and kids haven't seen him for a while because he's been working so hard trying to get it up and running in time for the end of April. So if you're from that area, if you're listening to this and you're from the Dungannon area, go and check it out. Go and meet Bobby, have a chat with him. He's a really lovely guy and he will put you at ease, and he wants the best for you. He wants the best for his clients and his class members. I can't speak highly enough of the guy. I'm really glad to see him fulfilling this dream of his and his passion. I've always thought if anybody should be doing this, it's Bobby. So it's great to see him doing that. Third time lucky. Got the interview down, and we got it done and dusted. So just a bit of a nightmare trying to upload it because it was such a long file, but got there in the end. I'm rambling on too much. I'm going to let you go. Enjoy your weekend. You've got lives to live. Enjoy it, whatever you're doing, and I'll catch you next time.